Welcome, 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 everybody, to Step Into Your Vision 2021. We are so darn excited that you are with us today. My name's Lynn Schuessler Williams, and my cohort in all things fun and flow is Brooke Haynes, and we are so fired up. We know you're going to have a great time with us this morning. And I want to invite you to do something right off the bat. So, right off the bat, first thing here, I want to invite you to let something go. Now, that may be a little bit of a tall order, but here's the deal. If you hear something today that you think you already know or you've heard before, it's human nature, it's natural to just think, "Oh, I know that." Right? But what we really want to do is put that thought aside and replace it with, I wonder what I might hear differently in that today. Or I wonder how I'm different from the last time I heard it. And I might show up to this information differently. So I'm just going to invite you to open your mind. And anytime you think, oh, I know this, or I've heard this before, or I heard this 20 years ago, or 50 years ago, or whatever it is for you, right? I want you to just replace that thought with, what can I learn from it today? How can I hear it differently today? So, Brooke, I want to invite you to welcome everybody too. I'm so excited we're here together.
Me too. I'm excited about a lot of things in life, and I just really am. I'm very excited about being here. And the reason why is because it is probably hands down one of my most favorite subjects to discuss. And so I love what you invited them to do so far as letting go of I know this, because what I have found is when I say it, I'm blocking out my new learning, because we've not been in this time, in this space, in this moment, hearing that information. What a great way to kick it off. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's so right. And and we're different people than the last time we heard it, if we've heard it before. And Brooke and I didn't make any of this up, y'all. we we learned it from other people. We've learned it from decades of, me a few more decades than her, but decades of paying attention and listening and reading and journeying and testing. And I invite all of you to not believe a word we say. Just put it into practice, right? Test it for yourself. And so that's the deal. We don't know everything, and we don't know the most important thing for you. But if you're curious and open today, I guarantee you're going to have a thought when you leave here that'll be different. And the whole idea of today is to really explore a little bit about how vision and visioning and having a vision and living from that vision can transform your life. So let's dive in a little bit. If you're here, I presume it means that it's important to have a vision, right? I presume that you already know that you need to have a vision of what you want to create. And you may have brought with you a written vision statement or a vision board, or you may have brought with you real clarity about your goals for the year. And if that's true, absolutely great. We hope that what you'll find today is a little bit of how you might edit what you've already done, and then how to implement. So this is about implementing your vision. This is about stepping into your year in a more powerful way, so you don't wake up in December and say, wonder what was on that vision board I made in December or in January, right? So we hope that you'll embody and embrace this idea of vision. And we're going to spend just a little bit of time talking about some things that are great to do when you're creating a vision. If you already have your vision or your goals, then great. Think of this as be open to the idea of how you might edit what you already have, right? So let's talk a little bit about what's important when it comes to creating a vision. So first of all, a vision is not a static thing. It's not just done, right? It should be a living, flowing, breathing guide and reminder to what you think is important. So, just don't feel like, oh, I did it and it's done, right? Let it be in the flow with you. And, when we focus on our vision, we're programming our brains. And some of you have heard me say this hundreds of times, like every Friday morning, but it's true, right? It makes sense to focus on what you want, because what you give your attention and your awareness to influences your experience. And this may sound a little woo woo, and it's great if you love woo woo, great. I do. But it's also neuroscience, right? We know that there are parts of your brain that are set up to make this true. What you give your attention and your awareness to programs your brain and says, that's what he or she is interested in. So I'm going to show her more of that. So focusing on your vision truly makes sense. And so that's why it's so important not to just write it or do the vision board once, but to carry it into your year with some focus. So we're talking about 2021 here, but there are a few elements of your vision that I want to make sure you understand. So first of all, what's the scope of your vision, right? So I write vision statements sometimes for different things. I might write my whole all-encompassing one for the whole year with all the different domains of my life, my health and well-being, my relationships, my career and creative expression, and my time and money freedom. Those are all areas that, it's the big scope, right? It's my whole life. But I also write visions sometimes for a project, right? I do it all the time. If I'm starting something new, I'm going to write a vision for what I want it to be when it's done, because it helps me to step into the space of creating it and helps me to understand it. So the scope can be different. You can use this as a tool for different parts of your life and have different scopes to your vision. And then your time frame, right? We talk about 2021 because we're at the beginning of 2021. One of the tricks I often use, because some of my coaching clients say, they get stuck in the, I don't know what to vision, I don't know what's at the end of this year, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes I say, think 3 years out, because 3 years out, we can create anything. Sometimes if you say this year, you start to reason in your head and say, oh, I can't get that done in a year or whatever. So think bigger, longer if you need to. But also, I do a vision for the year. I do a vision for the month. I do a vision for the week. I even, in my head, do a vision for the day. And every day I plug into the bigger vision. So your time frame for your vision can be flexible. And then, of course, we've already talked about different formats, right? You can have a vision board, you can have a written vision, it can be handwritten, it can be electronic, it can be, there are all these different formats for it. But number 4 is really what we're here to talk about today. And this is your interaction with it and the impact that it has, right? So that's what we're really here to focus on today. And, here I want to give you just some tips that I use with my coaching clients for when you're writing your vision. So when you're formulating it, obviously think about out to the end, right? Start with the end in mind. Go out to wherever it's going to land and look back, right? One of my coaching mentors has a process called remembering, where you literally in meditation go out to the future and look back. And you can even ask that future you, how did you make it work, right? So look back with your vision. Go out and start with the end in mind. Use your imagination. So how many people here, turn on your camera so we can see you. How many people here were told when they were a kid, quit daydreaming, right? Don't stare out the window. Lynn, why are you staring out the window in class? Oh my gosh, if I had a dime for every time. So here's the deal. Permission granted to daydream. Imagine. Open up your imagination. It is a mental faculty that every one of us has, and it's ours to decide to use. So use your imagination with your vision. I always ask people to just ask themselves one question and use it as a filter. And that question is, what would you love? Not what would be okay, not what would you settle for, but what would you absolutely adore? Like what would light you up, right? What would absolutely light you up? And this is a quote from Howard Thurman. He said, "Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive." And y'all, this is more important than ever, right? Right now, we're so filled with all these distractions in the world. Oh, there's a global pandemic. Oh, the politicians are crazy. Oh, whatever it is in you that's a distraction, right? And not to make light at all of the global pandemic or the huge and serious impact that it has. But if you're well, if you're breathing, then what the world needs is for you to come alive, right? What the world needs is for those of us who can to be lit up, right? And so that's so important. So also remember to write it as if it's already happened, right? Say it in the present tense. I'm so happy and grateful now that, and write it as if it's already happened. Put it in positive words. Say what you do want, not what you don't want. And then avoid saying the negative. Like if you're somebody who part of your vision is to lose a bunch of weight by the end of the year, don't talk about like losing weight and, talk about how great you feel. Talk about how your body is energized and flexible, and talk about the things you want to do now that you feel better. So those sorts of things, right? Put it in the positive, not in the negative. And here's a technique I call 5-sensorize your vision. So describe what it looks like, sounds like, tastes like, feels like, smells like, to be the man or woman who is living that vision, right? To be that person. Put your 5 senses into it. Paint a picture of the details, right? What do you want your day to look like? What do you want your week to look like? What do you want your home to look like, your work to look like? Paint the picture with the details, but then color the picture in with how you feel, right? You got to come back to the feelings. And then, always come back to the feelings, right? Brooke, you're good about this. So if somebody's having trouble, struggling to get to their vision, I've heard you say, come back to the feeling, right?
Yes, because that's what we're looking for anyway. We only want the money or the house or the relationship or the pet or whatever it is we're looking for, the business, because we want what we think it's going to give us. And it all comes back down to an emotion. So that's it. When you can, when I was struggling with what do I really want to look like? I don't know. I don't really care what kind of house I live in. Cars aren't important to me. I just need some money, really the way to get started is to step on how you want to feel.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the year, what do you want to feel? Is it security? Is it accomplishment? Is it love? Is it freedom? What are you ultimately looking to feel? And if you give yourself space to start thinking of that and feeling it, your creativity and the little puzzle pieces will start to come into a vision.
I love that, Brooke. And so what'll make you come alive? What will answer the question, what would I love? What'll make you feel the way you want to feel, right? So start to paint those pictures. We're going to take a few minutes here, and we're going to just kind of pause and ask everybody to put pen to paper for just a few minutes. And I think we have, I'm trying to see what time it is. Oh, yeah. We have plenty of time. So we're going to take about 6 or 7 minutes and give you just a few minutes of quiet to just turn your camera off and write. Don't look at us. Don't look at it. Just turn your camera off and make notes. If you already have your vision, then just journal a little bit. What would I love? What would make me feel like I've come alive? how do I want to feel at the end of the year? What's the vision I'm going for? And this will just, if you don't have it yet, it'll be a start. So set the intention that I'm just getting started so I'll have something to come back to. If you already have it, then this is a journaling exercise for things you might want to learn or one might want to add to it, right? All right, I'm going to find us some lightweight music.
Is this a Jeopardy situation or is this a meditational situation? I'm just kidding. Could you imagine writing your vision to Jeopardy?
Yeah, no. Absolutely. All right, I got some music coming. Give me just a second. Welcome back, everybody. I hope that was great to have a few minutes to spend on your vision. And I'm going to hand it over to Brooke to start us off talking about, let's see, I got to reshare. Stand by. Here we go. All right, Brooke, take us into stepping into your vision.
Well, stepping into your vision is probably by far the most important part. At least it is for me. Because I have seen, like in my younger years, when I didn't have much resistance, I'd set a goal, I'd accomplish it. I'd set a goal, I'd accomplish it. And then as I got a little older, life got a little tougher. I started noticing that I'd set a goal and it didn't quite get accomplished. And then I stayed in that period. And I have went through all the feelings of this thing, or a lot of feelings of how goals and visions work. I went to the Buddhist approaches. If I'm in the present now, why do we need goals? And I have been into each end of it. And really the key ingredient here, and why when I realized why it worked and when it didn't, was when I could step into the vision and feel it. It goes back to that feeling that these goals or these actions or this flow, which we're going to talk a lot about later, it creates inside of you. So when you're looking at your vision board or you're looking at your goals, and for people who are more analytical and they like those step-by-step goals because that makes them feel clear, that's okay. For people who like visions because they like the way it feels when they look at them, that's okay too. So when you step into it, what you want to do is spend time feeling the feeling you would feel when you're there. So there's always, how many of you all have ever like said when think when I grow up, right? No matter how old you are, you're like, when I grow up, right? Or when I get to, I will. When I will that. Whether it's when I get to 100,000, I'll feel successful. When I get that house, I'll feel accomplished. Whatever it is, right? When I have a child, I'll feel like a grown-up. Whatever it is that you may feel and whatever it is your goal, you want to, like Lynn said in the beginning, kind of reverse engineer this. You're still only wanting these things because of a feeling it's going to give you. So when you think about those goals and when you think about those visions, think about that feeling and feel it now. Start giving yourself space to feel it now. What would it feel like to already be in that house? Do you feel like you have more space where you can move around? Do you feel like it's a smaller house because it would be easier to keep clean? If you wanted $100,000 in your bank account, how does that make you feel? Does it feel certain? Does it make you feel free? Secure? What is it that you're looking for? And how would you walk when you are there already? How would you show up to a conversation when you're there already? So let's take just a second. This is just getting started, but let's just take just a moment so you can envision that. I call it, well, I come from a community where we call it our 2.0 self, right? And for sometimes in the beginning, I was like, heck, this is my 10.0 self. I don't know how many times I've re-evolved, but really I just mean my next, the person I'm striving to be, to up-level myself, right? Spiritually, emotionally, monetarily, all these things. So let's take a moment, just a couple moments to figure out what it is how you would feel when you felt those things. Okay, it's like 15, 20 seconds here. Now, my question is, have you ever felt any of those feelings before? Okay. Sometimes when you don't know what it feels like, you can go back to a place in your time where you felt that, even if it was for a moment. I have a client that I'm working with that said she has one moment she can remember where she had all of her kids and her husband, and she's sitting um, on a beach, and she felt relaxed. It was the only time she can remember feeling relaxed. So take that moment of feeling relaxed or feeling free or feeling creative, and use that for yourself, right? Okay. And shift it into now. Okay, so when you step into your 2.0, and you imagine yourself, when you're on walks, when you're walking your dog, when you're doing things, take moments to say, oh, wait a minute, I am that person already. And watch yourself adjust your shoulders, maybe look a little differently. And when you look into someone's eyes when you pass, it does look differently because you've stepped into that feeling you're looking to feel. And I'll tell you a little secret. When you step into that feeling and you're feeling it, boom, that stuff starts coming to you quicker than you've ever imagined. And this is just a little sneak peek. You don't even have to know the how. It'll just start coming to you once you can know how to step into that feeling. Okay. Then what you want to do is start normalizing it. And how do you normalize it? Do it as often as you can. It's like a muscle. We have to work it and work it, right? You'll do it for this moment, and then you might not do it again for a week. Oh yeah, I think she said something about stepping into my feeling. Okay, I get it. And no matter what, do it right then, and do it more often and more often. One of the people I listen to like this, they have a phrase called get out in front of it. Okay. And what that means is stop and feel it first, and then move through the next step. Stop first, go into your 2.0 self, and now go to that next level. Now answer that phone. Now create that email. Now solve that issue, because won't even be an issue, right? So, and then what you want to do is practice that and recreate it as often as you can. And you'll find that's just like a muscle. You'll do it once a month, once every 2 weeks, once a week, once a day, 3 times a day. And then all of a sudden you're going to find yourself becoming it. Okay. So what we're doing, and I just said becoming it, and it is, but actually we're just being it. So the difference is like, Just Be is the name of my company, right? And that came about because of a lot of reasons. I won't go down that journey. I would love to, but I'm not. Okay. But we're just here to be what we are. We're either doing it or we're not. We either are or we aren't. So you just want to be it. Okay. And so when you're stepping into that person, and when you're feeling that feeling, and you're remembering it, you're being it. So just be it. And of course, you'll be it sometimes for an hour and sometimes for 2 moments, but it's a muscle, and you'll start to work it. Okay. So you're basically literally putting on, being, and becoming your vision before it even comes to fruition in a way of tangible. Okay. One thing that helps me a lot is something I call knowingness. I was on a call with one of my mentors, and they were like, is it knowingness or truth? Well, for me, knowingness goes way back into my studies. And I worked with a mentor that knowingness is one of the highest levels of certainty. And for me, so pick your word that makes you feel like the highest level of certainty. Is it knowingness, or is it truth, or is it certainty? And there are times in your life when you have felt it. There's something that you can totally, no one could have talked you out of it. You know it. Okay. Just like for me, what we're talking about, nobody can talk me out of this. I already know it. I've become it. I've experienced it. I see when I'm doing it. I see when I'm not. And that sense of knowingness is what we want to accomplish. That's the muscle we want to grow. We want to know that person, that we already are that person we're wanting to be. We just have to match up to that person. And we do that by the things we're talking about today. There's different ways to do this. I'm going to give you an example of how to do it in a house or how to do it in other things. Lynn, before I go into those examples, is there anything you want to
Yeah,
You want
so I
to?
have a story I want to share that's really right at this, what you were just talking about. So I had a coaching client once. She was an attorney, she was a corporate attorney, and she has two little kids and a husband. And she lived up in northern Indiana. And her father, who was elderly, she was the youngest of a whole passel of kids, and her father was real elderly and lived here in Louisville, Kentucky. And he um, was having Alzheimer dementia type things, and he needed one of the kids to come live with him. So she left her corporate lawyer job, came to Louisville with her family, moved into the family home with her father to take care of him. And for 2.5 years, that's what she did. And he passed away, and her husband left and moved to another state. And she found herself living in this house with her two little kids and didn't know who she wanted to be when she grew up. She couldn't go back to corporate lawyering, and she had a newfound passion for elder law because she had been the family lawyer who'd handled all her dad's stuff, right? But she couldn't figure it out. She couldn't picture it. She couldn't vision it. She didn't know enough about it to like picture what a day would look like. And she felt like she didn't know enough about private practice because she'd been a corporate lawyer, and all this stuff was going on in her head. And one day I said to her, put on your vision. Like, put on that 2.0 you, right? What could you do to put it on? I always say that man or woman who is your 2.0 self, they do all kinds of things like you do. They brush their teeth like you do. They sit at a stoplight like you do. Just be her while you're doing that, right? How many times a day can you think to be her? And she took me very literally, Brooke, and she went running home and she dug through the back of her closet and found one of her old lawyer suits, right? One of her gray pinstripe pantsuits. And she put it on. And she said she walked to the mirror and she literally went, oh, I know her. She's a damn good lawyer. She's really, really smart. She can do this. This isn't that hard. And she had that knowingness. No one could have convinced her a moment before that she knew it, and no one could have convinced her in that moment of knowingness that she couldn't do it, right? And so sometimes we have to do things like I've had clients who've written a book and I did this with 9 little words. I made a mock up of the book and sat it on my desk so I could picture it and know it and see it and believe it more, right? So sometimes we have to do a little something like put on the suit to put on our vision to help us to get to that knowingness. So I just wanted to share that, Brooke.
Yeah, thank you. That reminds me of what I just did. I just recently, a couple days ago, took a screenshot of my bank account, and I took it into Canva and I replaced the. Oops, let's see. Uh, Hang on.
Yeah, don't show us your real bank account.
And I replaced the numbers.
It
It's a hundred
says a
thousand
hundred
dollars.
thousand dollars. I don't know if y'all can see that.
Every time I turn on my phone, and so what I'm doing is I'm normalizing it. Now, used to, up until now, which Lynn will talk about later, I would say, well, then I can go spend it. Well, that's not fair. How are you supposed to act like you have $100,000 in the account if you can't spend it, can't go into debt? No, what's shifted for me, I don't need to spend it because it wasn't about the money anyway. It was about that feeling that I wanted to feel, to see it. So this makes it normal for me. This makes me feel secure. And I've learned I don't even need to spend it. I still feel secure where I am, how I am in my little attic, in my tiny little house. And so that can happen. Also, learning like how to shift it. I have been in I've never really, as an adult, had a home that became a home. Like it's always been a roof over my head. And when I became pregnant, I did nest. That was 5 years ago. I started nesting, and I wanted it to be cleaner and a little bit more organized, right? But it never really was a home that I felt comfortable and that reflected who I was. And it was in 2020 when I was talking to just a colleague that does home organization, and I had already understood everything we're talking about today, but she applied it to my house. She's like, pick a room and start there. And I had just already been going into the quantum me and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, perfect. So I started with my workspace because to me, my work is most comfortable at the time, right? So I started with my workspace and I slowly started making little changes to make myself comfortable and let it reflect how I want to feel in the day and who I am. And it took a while. Like I put my computer up here for like 6 weeks before I did anything else. And then it slowly developed. Then when I got really into it, I was able to capture that feeling. But when I'd go anywhere else in my house, I wouldn't feel that. Okay. And that's okay. But suddenly I was able to capture the feeling I feel in here and shift it into a new room. And when I shifted into a new room, it was like, ooh, I want to feel when I walk into my bedroom like simple. And before I knew it, one day, I had no plan. I just started moving everything around. And now I had 2 rooms that is simple, that reflect who I am. And so I'm using and they flow, right? So you don't have to, I didn't have to start with the whole house and have to figure out how to make this happen. I just needed to start in one spot, really get into a place of knowing this is me, and then shift it when I was ready into a new place. Lynn has heard a couple times recently, and I've heard it in the past of people saying, I don't feel safe to dream. I don't even know how, especially these times and these uncertain times. Has anybody ever felt it? Well, you don't have to raise your hand. Don't worry about that one. But if you have, okay, know that you are not alone. And if you find yourself not feeling safe, go find that time in your life where you did feel safe. Wherever that was. If it means going all the way back to the womb, go all the way back to the womb. But if it means whatever that means, when you felt safe, and bask in that moment as often as you can. When you start basking in that moment as often as you can, it'll start feeling more your reality throughout the day and throughout the weeks. And you will start feeling safe to do all of these bigger visions. And they're not bigger, they're just visions. Don't put the stress on you that it's big.
I love that, Brooke.
Thank you. All right. So, Lynn, all this is gravy, but how do we step into our vision on a daily habit?
Yeah. So, you know that old saying, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 right? So, I mean, it's doing it, right? It's what you said. It's the be. Just be in it. Just do it. Focus on it. All of those things, right? And ask yourself some questions. So here's a question that can really move you to that space. Um, what are the practices that you have that align your energy with your vision? What are you doing that for sure aligns with your 2.0 self? So if you, I remember when I started my business, one of the things that I had a habit of doing was playing video games in the evening or watching TV after supper. Well, I had a vision of creating a business, and that was not in alignment. That behavior, that practice was not in alignment with creating my vision. So I realized that I had to cut away that practice, and I did. But here's what happens when you when you let go of something, when you cut away something and you decide for something else, that's great. But if you cut something away and you don't make a conscious decision of what you're replacing it with, you will, psychologists tell us, neuroscientists tell us, you will replace it with more of the same. You will replace it with the old energy. So you have to consciously ask yourself, what are the practices in my life, in my morning, in my midday, in my evening? What are the practices in my life that are in alignment with accomplishing my vision? And so that's just a really important question to ask yourself. So when we first identify the things maybe that are going to go away, then we want to ask ourselves, how do I choose things that are in alignment with the feeling of being in the flow, of getting to my vision? And what do you think, not what do you think you ought to do, right? But back to what Brooke was talking about that feeling, that knowingness, that being in the space of moving in the flow of your vision. So, what is it that you want to choose to be a practice in your morning? So, one of the things I've heard for years and years and years is the practice of touching my phone first thing in the morning is not real helpful, right? And so recently I have decided that I'm going to, before I go to bed, check my calendar for the morning so that I don't wake up going, "Oh, what am I supposed to do today? How am I supposed to do, whatever." And I get into this energy of, do I know? Do I know? Instead, before I go to bed, I check it one last time. I say, I'm clear about when I have to be somewhere in the morning and what it is. I turn my phone off. I make sure the light's not on, and I put it away, and I don't touch it until after I've started my morning with practices that are in alignment with moving me toward my vision. And that's been a huge change for me. So you're going to hear us say this word flow a lot today, being in the flow of things. And so I want to let you know that that's kind of an important word. You might think of it as a little bit woo-woo, but the truth is there's a lot of science behind flow. And so I always define flow for people as a state of optimal existence, where coincidences and synchronicities are just a normal, expected part of life, right? Think about that. Optimal existence, where synchronicities and coincidences are just an expected, normal part of life.
Can I give that a woo woo?
Yeah. Yes, you can. Absolutely. And it's also things get easier and visions manifest in unexpected ways when we're in this state of flow, when we're in this state of optimal existence where coincidences and synchronicities just happen and we expect them, right? And so it makes sense. You had that, that's the wrong one. You had that picture earlier of our brain. And remember, we said it makes sense to have a vision and to focus on your vision. Well, it makes sense to cultivate flow in your life too, for the same reason, right? It makes sense. So, one of my favorite PhD psychologist authors is Maria Namath. And she says, life is luminous when we create games worth playing and goals worth playing for. Life is luminous, luminous. And she says that luminosity in life is all about clarity, focus, ease, and grace. That just sounds good, right? When I say clarity, focus, ease, and grace, I just kind of get goosebumps all over, right? It just sounds like that feeling that I want, Brooke. It's that feeling I want is clarity, focus, ease, and grace. So I want a luminous life. I want a life in flow where synchronicities and coincidences just happen. And I have games worth playing and goals worth playing for, right? And they just flow together. And I had an experience of this yesterday that Brooke and I really enjoyed talking about. I had an intention that I was going to create a coaching course that was bigger than what I have going right now, that was more in depth. And the truth is, I didn't really want to create it. I didn't really want to work that hard, but I knew it was supposed to be out there, and I knew it was supposed to be part of my vision. And yesterday,
Before you tell them what happened, can I tell them a little bit more detail about
yeah,
that?
you can.
So Lynn does tell me, now guys, these little stories are what's important about everything we're saying,
Yeah.
okay? Is Lynn says, Brooke, I'm gonna create a 12-week, okay, 12-week course. And it's gonna be a higher ticketed course because it's gonna go into so much detail and it's gonna change people's lives. And I said, and so that's that. Okay, go ahead.
So then I had an appointment yesterday to talk to this woman who I had hired her as a coach back in 2020, mid-year sort of, and we hadn't talked in a while we hadn't talked much since I'd finished her course, but we really liked each other and we just had a catch-up call. And I get on that catch-up call and she says to me, I'm expanding my course to 12 weeks. It's going to be way more in depth and way more this and way more that and it's going to have all these things in it that I don't know yet, right? She's an expert on the stuff that we're doing and she's an expert at a level I'm not yet when it comes to this digital marketing stuff. And she said, I want you to co-coach it with me. And I want you to revenue share it with me. And I want to do this with you. So I got handed the participation in coaching on a 12-week course that I don't have to create. And it was exactly what I said I wanted, but I had no idea how. I didn't even know where to start. I didn't feel drawn to start. You know why? Because I didn't need to start. And so sometimes this is being in flow, right? This is the synchronicities and the coincidences that happen, and we don't have to force them. We don't have to push them. We can just open ourselves to practice the things that will keep us in alignment with who we've come here to be, that will allow us to stand in ourselves as our 2.0 selves, our highest and best selves. And we practice that, and the rest just comes, right? So that was a huge experience that happened just yesterday. So when we tell you we practice this stuff, we're not kidding. We practice this stuff. So the last thing I want to say about that is you enhance your experience of flow by being curious. Curiosity is a practice that is so important. So asking yourself, being curious, what's the good in this situation, whatever it is? Asking yourself and being curious, what's the next most important thing for me to do to step toward my vision? That's a question I ask myself all day long, every day. What's the next most important thing for me to do? What feels right, Brooke, for me to do next?
Right. And I'm going to challenge that question into, so then do you go try to figure it out, or do you just let it be the question?
Yes. Yes. Just absolutely open. I'm open to the curiosity. I'm open to what comes to me as the answer. I don't have to know the how. I don't have to even know the when. I just have to be curious and open and receptive to the answers that I get. And if I had said to you, I'm going to create this 12-week course, and I had felt like I had to know how and I had to know when, I'd have wasted all this time getting busy trying to write an outline and figure out stuff I didn't know yet and blah, blah, blah. And no, that'd have been a big waste of time, right?
And possibly an energy drainer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, what's in alignment with moving toward my vision, right? It doesn't say what's the next thing I have to do to get it done. What's in alignment with moving toward my vision is the question. But being curious all the time, right? And sometimes challenging things happen, and so we just get curious about how can I approach this so it won't be an energy drain? How can I approach this and stay in the alignment and flow with my vision, right?
Right. And to me, that is crucial. You don't have to know the how. Like I feel like that itself could be a whole different part of this because it's ingrained in us to go be problem solvers, solution finders. And when we're wrapped up into the energy of how and how to fix the problem, we are not wrapped up in the energy of what we're wanting to be or do. So it shifts things. And it can drain energy like this. Okay. And so to really allow yourself to not have to figure out the how, and just that is flow.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a little bit about being in alignment. Brooke, I want you to talk a little bit about this idea of accepting because I think this is super important. And it's a concept that I think you say so well, and you've taught me a lot about this idea of accepting. You've touched on it already, but I know you have something to say about it.
I got a lot of things to say, don't I? Accepting is the start. So there is acceptance in everything. Right now, the difference sometimes the first step between here and there and where we're going is to accept where you are and let that be okay. When we accept it, we nurture it, we allow it, we love it. And now we have this soil that we can move forward with. And I'll give you a big turning point in my life with acceptance because logically I understood this. But it changed my life about a year and a half ago when I came down with a lot of pain, Like I had a medical potty, and at the very end of this, I was in bed. My dad had to come and take care of me and my son for about 3 days, and I couldn't move. And I had to tell at the time one of my partners, I was not wanting to tell her, right? Because everything we're talking about, I already knew logically. I just wasn't applying, I wasn't living it. And so I I told this business partner of mine what was going on. And she simply said, "You're not accepting your pain." I was like, okay. So of course I wasn't. I didn't want to feel that. That was terrible. So I go back to my bed and I lay down and I said, I accept the pain. I'm in pain. And when I accepted the pain, and that's what she just wanted me to do, right? But it went to another level with me. When I accepted the pain and I laid there in my bed, what happened? I started hearing my thoughts and the way I was talking to myself. I can't believe you're in this situation. You know better. If you know emotions equal disease, you should not be in this situation. You should be farther along. I can't believe you, blah, 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 blah. All that was coming. Now, before I accepted that pain, I wouldn't have told you I was talking to myself like this because I know better. Okay. So then when I heard that, what did I do? I was like, it's okay. I accepted where I was. I'm here in this moment in pain. I am learning from this. And I just said, it's okay. And I started talking to my cells. I started talking to that little girl inside of me. What would I tell her? And man, I just started holding myself and saying, you know what? Up until now, well, we're gonna go with that now. At the time, I think I said, now that's my phrase, but at the time, I was like, this used to serve me. It served me before, but it no longer serves me. It's okay. And when I sat there for a few hours, just really accepting who I was and where I was and what space I was in and loving myself, I was walking in no time. In 3 days, I was like feeling so much better. Within a month, I could bounce up and down the steps again. And that, my friends, is that period of pain that lasted for a long time, many months, is a thing in my past. And it taught me so much about acceptance. So moving forward, there's been things that pop up all the time. And sometimes when I don't know how to handle it, I fall back to acceptance
Mm.
and then move forward.
I love that. You know, Brooke, when we're not accepting, of whatever it is. We're not accepting of the number in our bank account. We're not accepting of some health thing. We're not accepting of whatever the situation is we don't like. It becomes a distraction, right?
A
It
big distraction.
totally is taking us out of flow, out of alignment with our vision, out of alignment with the what we want to create and who we want to show up as in life, right? And so it's like this huge release of all this distraction, right? And you can just be, which is your word all the time anyway, right? I love that. That's so huge. What about allowing? Let's talk about allowing a little bit. I always think about that story that Abraham Hicks tells about putting your canoe in the water at this point on the river where this is where you are. You're accepting this is where you are at your point on the river, right? And you can put your canoe in the water and you can work hard and you can learn a bunch of different strokes and paddle upstream and go up the river, or you can put your canoe in the water at the same place and go with the flow and go allowing it to carry you where you're meant to be focused and aligned. So, say a little bit more about allowing.
So once you've accepted, allowing is what's next. Just like everything you just said, it starts to allow the flow. And so when you're judging yourself, you're not allowing for anything else to happen except to stay miserable. Okay. When you, and some, so I about went down that. I'm pulling myself back. Hang on. Okay. I about went down that whole rabbit hole. But anyway, um, so allowing is allowing things to be as they are, giving yourself permission, which we'll talk about again, giving yourself permission to, when you feel like you need a break, take that break. We were taught that our self-worth was equal to our productivity. That is a system by design. It doesn't matter. We accept them. They probably want, we needed that back in the day. We needed to be productive because we had roads to build and villages to have food to, right? Whatever, right? But today that no longer serves us. What serves us is to go back into our flow and go back into allowing things to be as they are. When you need a nap, take a nap. When you need meditation, take meditation. And most importantly, allow your vision to have like the expectations behind the vision to look a little different. So you want to know how you want to feel with knowingness. You want to know where you're going insofar as who you're going to be. But allow the world to help you feel in that vision. And it may look a little different than what you originally thought. And allow that to be okay. Allow yourself to move forward. When some things and so it's just acceptance. Allowing acceptance is first, accepting where you are, and then that allows you to open the door to allow, right?
I love it, Brooke. So, we're going to do a little 15-minute breakout room time, right? So,
Yeah, after I'm a host, I will do that, or a
yeah.
co-host.
Oh, that might be helpful.
And
Hold on.
yes.
Yeah, here we go. I got you. Is that good? Did that
Yes.
work? Good.
Yes. And go ahead.
So, we're going to go into breakout rooms. And before we do, I want to, John Drennan texted me in the chat a great idea that goes along with your bank account idea, Brooke, the putting that in. So I heard him tell this and he texted it all to me in the chat. So I want to read it to everybody. Take a blank check registry. You know, the old fashioned one where you wrote down all your checks. And in the blank check registry, you're going to begin on day one with $1,000 deposit. This is an imaginary deposit. Don't freak out. And then on that day, pretend to spend it all, right? Spend the $1,000. And write out the payments in the checkbook, like write out the checks of spending the $1,000. And then on day two, deposit $2,000. and spend it, and keep doubling your amount every day until, or adding $1,000 to it, I guess. John, you can put in the chat which you meant. And spend it until you get to a deposit that you struggle to spend, right? And that's it. That's that opening our sight lines. That's that thinking bigger. That's finding that top of your comfort zone, right? When you find, when it, say your daily deposit gets to whatever it is, $30,000, $300,000, $3 million, whatever it is for you, you get to that place where you can no longer comfortably figure out how to spend it. You can't imagine it yet. And now you know you're at your threshold of where you're willing to think. So, so that's a cool exercise and really fun. And John, thank you for suggesting that. I love it.
I love that.
I said at 1 year you are at 300. Oh, you do it $1,000 a day, right? Wow. So there you go. I love it. So
thanks. Take a moment to, if you can have your video on. I mean, this is for you all. I understand there's positions where you can't, but if you can, go ahead and turn on your video. And what kind of questions do you have? Is that cool with you, Lynn? If we go ahead and see where everybody is, because it's been an awfully quiet crowd.
Yeah, that's right. Turn on. We're happy to do that, and then we can talk about what we're going to do in the breakout rooms. But let's take a few minutes to see if anybody has questions or things you want to throw out, things you want to say about what you've heard.
I so appreciate, I'm Kelly. Brooke, when you talk about how when you were younger, you would set a goal and you would achieve it. Boom, it was done. And that started to change as you aged. And I thought, like, I mean, some of the, well, you know what? I'm not going to talk about some of the words that I used to say to myself. But I really relate to that. And that was kind of amazing. So it's nice.
We don't have resistance back then. We just think everything happens and comes true.
I totally had that experience too. When I was a little kid, I had that knowingness that everything was all right, that everything was working out for me all the time, that everything was in flow. I totally lived that way as a child all the time. And then, you know, circumstances come in and try to prove to us differently, right? Try to show us that it's something else. So you're right, Brooke, there's no resistance and nobody ever told us different. So we just, right? I love that. Anybody else? Thank you, Kelly.
Lynn, is Jane Lehman, Bernie, Texas. And I remember as a child, one of my report cards in the second grade, I believe it was, said Little Janie Daydreams. And that really brought that back when you said that. Yeah, they wanted to rip that right out of you. So
yeah, that's right. You know, Jane, all of us have things, it might be the imagination thing, the daydreaming thing, or it might be some other message you heard from, you know, my teachers wrote, from about 8 years old on, my teachers all wrote, Lynn doesn't live up to her potential. Boy, am I glad I don't believe them anymore.
Right? Wow. Can you believe there's people out there that would even say things like that or think it?
Over and over. I have multiple report cards from that period in my life where that's what it said. Yeah.
My
Mary
report.
Ann Brown had her hand up, I think.
Well, I was always told that I was crazy for having a vision, for being in this bubble. And actually, I was just told that again yesterday by somebody. You're in a bubble. What are you doing? You're not in reality. I'm like, you know, I have a choice on how I feel and where I'm at. Plain and simple. It's my choice.
Good for you.
And I can relate to that. Sorry,
Yeah.
Lynn. I can relate to that. People have always told me that you live in your own world. I have friends to this day will be like, well, I'm going to tell you because I know you won't figure it out any other way. But like, because they're just dying to let me know the bad things are happening. And what's the word? Pollyanna? I've been called that a lot. And the reality is if you know my life, I have been through some things, some real things. Okay. And I made a choice. I actively chose to have a different mindset and have a different way of thinking.
Absolutely.
And guess what? 2020 and 2021, 2020 was the beginning, the birth of it. 2021 is the momentum of the people, those people who have the visions and those people who are ready to become themselves and put down all the ways that they're supposed to be and just be. It's wide open now. Those are the people who are soaring. The ones who are relying on the perfect way to do it or the best system or the best this, they're kind of struggling. But when you just show up and become you, that's who the world needs you to be, you. And they're soaring.
John said to Marianne in the chat, Marianne, when the masses are calling you crazy, you know you're on track. I love that. Thank you for that, John. That's so good. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Take one or two more. Anybody else? And I love your cameras on. I want y'all to see. Just turn on, anybody who can, turn your camera on and look at the radiant, gorgeous people that are here. Oh my goodness.
And if you're having problems seeing with the share screen, then you can go up to where it says you're viewing Lynn's screen and then go to view options, click side by side. And then when you click side by side, you're going to have this little invisible line that's between the share screen and the people or the person. And you can move it over and make this PowerPoint smaller and the people, more people will populate.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I have the PowerPoint like this big and the people like that big.
Yeah, me too. I love that too, Brooke. And thank you for pointing that out because I think a lot of people don't know it. All right, let's do breakout rooms, y'all.
All right. So what's
here's
the
what we're gonna
question?
do. Brooke, you want to talk them through it or you want me to while you set it up?
You talk them through it and yes.
Okay, so we're going to go into breakout rooms. We're going to have 4 people roughly in a breakout room. And each person, so the second you get there, somebody volunteer to be timekeeper because it'll help us make sure everybody gets to talk. And then each person gets to spend a minute sharing a time where you experienced flow, synchronicity, coincidence, or you had a positive, unexpected outcome, right? So 1 minute just sharing a time when you experienced flow, synchronicity, coincidence, or a positive, unexpected outcome. And then 2 minutes, share what you think you're going to do in your daily practice to stay in alignment with your vision going into this year. And write that answer down. Don't just say it in the breakout room, write it down because the breakout rooms won't be recorded. So you're not going to be able to see your answer later. Be sure you write that answer down. Okay? Yes. So, Brooke, you ready?
I'm ready. How long will be this?
Well, there are 4 people. Let's see.
Some of them have 5.
15 minutes.
And someone heard breakout rooms and dropped off. Let me move this around. Okay. So there's a couple of rooms with 5 and then some with 4.
That's good. We have 15 minutes.
Okay.
And
15.
it's 2 people each. So that should be plenty, even if there's a room with 5.
Awesome. Okay. If you have any questions, just let us know. Here we go. Look at all those fun faces.
Oh, I
Hi,
want to hear the end of
everybody.
the story that was being told when we came back.
We have to hear the end of the story.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so
Tell-
it continued to
Quickly.
flow in. I went into my hotel room. I pick up the phone. Somebody calls. I'm assuming they're going to be like, "Oh, there's a mistake or something." They said, "No, instead of $100, it's actually a $150 voucher." And then people just kept giving me money. It was starting to get uncomfortable, but it was so fun and so in the flow. So there.
Love it. Love it. Love
Bravo.
it. Love it. So, guys, we are going to take a 5-minute break. So, we are going to take a 5-minute break. I really mean 5 minutes. Like, go and, grab something to drink, go, take care of stretching or whatever your body needs, and be back here at 11:30 Eastern on the dot because you don't want to miss what's next. everybody that's is back, and we want to start with a little bit of a discussion. So if you're in a place where you can turn on your camera, please do. And if you are there, I see some smiling faces. Hi, y'all. Beautiful people. So we want to have a little bit of a conversation with you. So first of all, I just want to say, if this is the first time you're hearing some of this information and it's uncomfortable, that's okay, right? It is okay. And so first I want to talk a little bit about this first question that we had you contemplate and talk about in the breakout room. This sharing, I don't want you to share the story, but I want you to say, if you like, what was that like? Why do you think we asked you to share a time when you experienced flow and synchronicity or coincidence or unexpected outcome? I'm not asking you to tell the story. I'm asking you to say, what was it like, and why do you think to share something like that, and to think about it and to know it, and why do you think we asked it, that sort of thing? Robert?
Because it brought greater awareness. It brought back the memory of it, and just how unaware I was of what was going on in life. You know, it just happened.
Yes, absolutely. It makes us know we've experienced it before, doesn't it? Anybody else, what it was like to think of, Bridget?
I felt all three: accepting, allowing, and alignment from my story. And I
Yeah.
was only 10 years old. So,
Yes. We were just having a conversation during the break with Kelly. I think, was it Kelly? I don't know. About how, we experienced it differently when we were kids sometimes. Yeah. Maybe that wasn't in the break either.
and out of 13 children, Lynn, I was always told, "Oh, Bridget's dreaming again. Bridget's dreaming again." Yeah.
Yeah, good. That's good. I hope you still are. That's wonderful.
I felt
Prince?
energy. Like I felt it from the other women.
Yes.
My group.
Yeah. So, yes. So you got to experience the energy of other people's experience. I love that, Kelly. Prince, were you saying something?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the fact that we also tend to feel that whatever our experience is could very well be abnormal, whereas it's the same as you're saying here, is that for instance, the dreamers, if you've been told that you were a dreamer when you were a young kid, what's wrong with that?
Yes.
So yeah, I could go further, but there's a lot that's been funny to me, seriously.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I love that idea too, right? When you hear other people say, I had these experiences of flow, of coincidence, of unexpected outcomes, it does what Brooke was talking about earlier. It normalizes it, right? And you
Exactly.
believe it more for yourself because you're like, well, I just heard Kelly talk about that great story or whatever, right? So it absolutely is, it normalizes it. Okay, so now what about this other idea that we talked about? So you, in your breakout rooms, you shared what you thought you're going to do in your daily practices to stay in alignment with your vision. So what I'd love for you to do is just rapid fire kind of popcorn, shout out some of the things you heard. Maybe you heard something that wasn't what you thought of, but you heard somebody else say it and now you're going to do it, right? Or let's hear some of those. If you can't unmute and talk, you can put it in the chat too.
Start the day right.
Start the day right. I love that.
Visioning.
Visioning.
Have fun and improve.
I love that. Have fun and get better. I love
Go
it.
with the flow. Go with the flow.
I love that, John Bradley.
Structure and organize.
Say that again.
Structure and organization.
Oh, yeah. Good, good.
Stay
Some of us
connected
need
to
to
your
practice
dream.
that. Say it again, Melinda.
Stay connected to your dream.
Yeah, staying connected to your dream. Yes, yes. And what would that look like as a practice, right? Maybe that looks like if you have a written vision, maybe it means you read it every morning and every night. Maybe it means, I've done all kinds of things to stay connected to my vision. I get a 3x5 index card and I write a little short version of it, just like a few bullet points, and I put it in my wallet next to my debit card or whatever I use most, so that every time I reach for money, I touch that vision and it makes me think of it. There are all kinds of things you can do to stay connected to your vision as practices. That's so good, Melinda. Anybody else?
Be curious.
Be curious.
Lynn says you can be anything you want to be. Lynn and her says that in the chat.
Yes, in the chat. Yes. Ted, were you saying something?
Yeah. I make sure I do my meditations first thing in the morning. And that's important. As Georgette said, if you don't do them first thing in the morning, you probably don't do them any other time.
Isn't that the truth? How many times have I gotten to a certain point in my practice and thought, oh, I can do those last two little things later. And then those last two little things never happen, right? That's like, so it's about discipline in terms of just making a choice, right? To do or to complete. For me, that would be to complete the practice, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So good, you guys. So good, you guys. All right, we're going to keep moving. So the next thing we want to talk about is what happens when you hit the brick wall, right? What happens when you're out of alignment with flow? What happens, what are some things you can do to get back to that place, right? We've talked about a few of them, but we wanted to talk about them here, kind of consciously organizing this in a way so you're consciously kind of ticking off some things that you can do, right? And it'll stick. We want to make this sticky. So Brooke, why don't you kick us off here?
Ooh, I like this subject because how often when we're playing this game for the first time, we're almost out of flow more than we are in flow until we have more and more, until we keep working our muscle. First of all, just know when you're not in flow, it's okay. Help is on the way, right? It's okay. You can accept that you're not in flow. But my favorite number one way for me to get back into flow is to play a game that I call the F It Happy game. And what that means, I have a story with this and an explanation. I was at a point in my business where I wasn't real sure where I wanted to go, and I had no idea what to do. So on the weekend, I started doing Lyft to bring in some extra income. And because I had no resistance to Lyft, I just needed a couple $100 extra bucks. I just wanted some extra to build, right? I had no resistance. I had so much fun. I could see everything we're talking about working. Hey, you know what? I think I'd take myself into the vision of the East End. So all of a sudden I'd get into the car and someone would say, I want to go to the East End. And then I'd say, I want to have the conversation about relationships. All of a sudden we'd get into the car and we'd have a conversation about relationships. And then I would see when I said, oh, let's make $3 more. I'll stay another 20 minutes, but I was tired. Whoa. I'd end up in the wrong end of town. I'd end up with someone I didn't like because I was forcing it. I was trying to meet my goal. I was no longer in flow. And so I thought, holy cow, this is so much fun. And I was banking, and I never thought I would be banking like that. So what I did was I said, now, how do I do this in my business? What's my most fun thing? What's my thing that I love doing in business? I personally love one-on-ones. When you go network and you meet the person, you set up a one-on-one and y'all just collaborate. Favorite thing in business for me to do. So I just said, because I literally said, F it, I'm going to go have some fun. And I set up 3 days worth of one-on-ones. I wasn't through the whole first day when my life started changing, and it was by the mid-second day when boom, stuff blew up. And within 48 hours, I met a new mentor who had the F It Happy game. And it was the same game, different word. Okay. And so this ended up being a big thing in my life where now I know when I'm not in flow, I learn how to have fun. Now, Fun doesn't necessarily mean that I need to go take a vacation or I need to go play a big game. Fun can be like this. When I catch myself yelling or being bitter towards my son, I'll go in the middle of it, I'll remember. And then I'll suddenly go, woo, 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 woo to him. And we just start cracking up. Changes the whole atmosphere and we get back into flow, right? Because it'll like get tighter and tighter and tighter. And then I'll be like, ah! And then I'm like, woo, 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 and we start cracking up. It could be that I am about to start a meeting and I'm not feeling it. So how can I have fun? And I'm like, I might bust a move for a second, right? Like meaning dance, right? So you can have fun in your moment. You can have fun and play games with yourself because life is just a game. So to me, now there's one key point to everything we're about to talk about. The intention is to have fun. If the intention is connected with because I need to be back in flow, it won't work. You can't do it because you need something because it goes back into being, right? You have to say, oh, you know what? I need a moment of fun. I notice I'm out of flow. I want to feel some fun and go and have that moment of fun. And you'll start to get back in flow. And there's many other ways.
So Brooke, I gotta say, what you just said, right, is fun is in alignment with your vision. Fun is in alignment with who you've come here to be and how you want to feel, right?
Yes.
In your vision. And so when you're out of alignment, you're accepting that this is what it is, whatever the out of alignment is, you're accepting it. And then you're allowing yourself to just feel for the fun. Just be curious about where the fun is. What can I do that would feel fun? And with no attachment to like the why of it, right? And that puts you back in alignment. So you just described the 3 A's in that little thing perfectly, right? I just totally got the 3 A's listening to you say that whole reaching for fun thing. I love it so much. So for somebody else, we could even say like, do something fun. It breaks up the energy, right? It breaks up that. But we could even say, if fun isn't your thing, if something else is the expression of your vision, reach for that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Whatever it is, reach for that. So another thing that's a tool that we use, and you've heard us say the beginning of this over and over today as we told stories, right? And that is up until now. So these are my 9 little words to change your results. So if you're getting results of being out of flow, if you're feeling constricted energy, not expanded energy, if you're, then ask yourself, what's the thought behind all of that, right? Or what's the experience behind all of that? And then put up until now in front of it. So Brooke said it, I don't know, 2 or 3 times when she was telling stories today. Well, up until then, or what I would say now is that up until now, and it's a powerful tool because it interrupts our old pattern of thinking. And at the same time, in 3 little words, it lays out, it's going to be different from here on. So it acknowledges that's the acceptance built in, right?
Right.
It accepts this is what it's been, and it gives us the possibility of the future of that something else different is coming now, right?
And taking away the judgment. Like when you do that, because the judgment of, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that way. That's not what we're here for. We're not here to badger ourselves. So when you say, so that's what I love about those 9 little words. Before I met Lynn, I was always saying, well, this used to serve me and that's okay. And now it no longer serves me because I could resonate with that. But now I've shifted to these 9 little words and it does the same thing because we want to remove the judgment of how you just felt.
Right. And so then the next phrase, which adds action to affirmation, is I am willing. So what are you willing to do about it, right? If up until now it's been this and you're implying it's going to be different going forward, what are you willing to do about it? And for me, I am willing is almost always a bullet point list. It always includes how I'm willing to think differently about it, right? I'm willing to embrace a new thought about how it's been this up until now, right? I am willing to do something different about it. I'm willing to recommit maybe to something like a morning practice that'll keep me in flow with my vision, right? So what are you willing to do to change that result? And then the last phrase, no matter what, that's there to kind of seal the deal, right? No matter what, it is about two of your innate mental faculties: the power of faith, and I don't mean religious faith, I mean your willingness to believe in a result you can't see yet, and decision. The power of decision, right? It is so incredibly powerful when you decide with firmness and conviction and dedication that this is my path, this vision is where I want to be in flow, and I'm going to decide that I'm just going to live from there, right? That's the transformative power of decision. So the 9 little words are one of the tools for your toolbox for when you're feeling out of alignment. So I'm gonna go back to here,
Lynn?
Brooke, while we finish this list.
Lynn, I was writing down faith. Can you repeat decision?
Yeah, decision is the power of decision is committed, dedicated. It is firm, right? You have to make a decision with dedication and firmness and commitment so that it means something, right? It is sealing the deal, right? And the other thing I'll say about decision, I do a whole 1-hour webinar just on the power of decision. So I could say plenty about decision, but the thing I want you to hear about decision is that when you decide for something, right? You're deciding for your vision. It's a positive decision. It also has this element that it cuts away all the other possibilities, right? Decide comes from the same root as genocide, herbicide, insecticide. It literally in the Latin means to kill or cut away. So when I decided for my black shirt and my bead necklace, I decided for those things, and I cut away the possibility of my blue shirt and my scarf instead of a necklace, right? So think of it as deciding for the flow of your vision, right? Decision doesn't have to be constrictive. It can be freeing.
And you can always decide something else if you don't like your results on what you decided. But if
Right,
you're stuck in
exactly.
maybe, there is no flow in maybe. So you can quickly say, "Oh, decide again, alert."
Right. You're a great big human being and you're allowed to change your mind, right? But when you change your mind, change it with conviction and dedication and
Right.
go with it, right? The other thing is sleep and meditation. So sleep and meditation are wonderful ways to reset your energy, right? To reset your mind, to just kind of relax your brain, get out of your own way, and reset. So sleep and meditation are great tools for your toolbox when you're feeling out of flow.
One thing I'd like to add about sleep is if it's essential for babies to sleep to grow, and it's essential when you have a disease to sleep to heal. So if sleep is that big of a deal, if that's that important, then what can it do for someone who's just needing to reset their mind? A lot. So I had a mentor back in the day that used to have this list. And if you had a problem, you weren't allowed to come to her unless 3 things were in place: 8 hours of sleep. I can't remember something about protein, and your space was organized. And if you had all 3 checked, you had a right to vent to her. But if those weren't checked, you need to put those in check and then come back and talk to her. And almost every time the solution would appear.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that you mentioned, babies sleep to grow and they grow when they sleep. the other thing that I learned from when my children were tiny, you know how toddlers get on a crying jag and they get stuck and they just can't stop? So my husband would scoop up the toddler and go, time for a change of venue. And he would just like take them to another room or take them outside and sit them in the grass or, you know, whatever. It was just like, you just have to move. You have to get out of whatever space you're in. So a change of venue is a great tool. Like, how can I just get curious about what change of venue might serve me right here, right? And do a little shift, right?
Yes, right.
Yes.
Change it up, change it right.
Be the toddler and ask what you need, right?
And you know, Lynn, you say a lot about slowing down to speed up. And to me, what that means is when I am going too fast, I have learned that I am much more productive and I can do what might take a 5 or 6 hours of a project in like 2 hours if I have my sleep in, if I slow down and take a break. Because for decades, I said, I don't have time for a break. Are you kidding? That sounds gravy, but shit will, excuse my language, everything will fall apart if I take a break. All right. I thought that and knew it. Now I know that the truth is I can be better for me and everyone around me if I stop and take a break. My projects will go smoother. They'll go faster. I'll show up better for me. I'll show up for the people around me better. So slowing down to speed up is a great one. And Lynn, you say that a lot, slowing down to speed up.
And I learned it from somebody who's here, Mr. John Drennan. So that's a phrase that came directly from him. So I acknowledge that what an influence he's been in my life. And you're so right. You know, take a break, slow down, do some planning, maybe do some exploring, journaling. I love to do that as part of my slow down to speed up. So we want you guys, we're coming up on the end here. We only have about 7 minutes left. And I'd like for you guys to just add to the chat ideas that you have for ways you're going to handle it when you feel yourself out of flow and out of alignment with your vision. And what are some things you're going to do? Put them in the chat. So we don't have time for everybody to talk about this. So just add those to the chat. And then at the end, we will be in a place where we can all save the chat. So here's what I want to do. We've talked a lot about being in the space of this and being in the energy of this and being in flow and all of it. So I want to lead you through just a little brief meditation. And I want you to just feel like you can leave your camera on, you can turn your camera off, certainly be muted, but get comfortable in your seat. Leave the chat alone for a minute. Just close your outer eyes. Take a nice, long, deep breath. And the first thing I want you to picture, this is a guided meditation, so this is not going to be quiet. This is going to be me talking. Let my voice be the guiding voice in your head for a minute, if you're willing. And just picture a beautiful bright light above your head. And as you breathe in, that beautiful bright light is kind of raining down on the outside of your body. And so you feel that light and you know that that light is just a blessing. It is just absolutely, you know, whatever your belief is, divine light, it is luck, it is whatever you want to see it as, but it's blessing. It's blessing you. And so that light comes down and rains all over the outside of your body, and it's coming into your body with your breath. So as you breathe in that light and let it fill your heart space. And that with the next breath, let that light fill every cell of your being. Let that light fill every cell of your body. And now your whole body is just radiating with that beautiful light of blessing. And as you feel that beautiful light of blessing grow, it's enveloping your whole house. With the next breath, it's enveloping your whole neighborhood. With the next breath, it's enveloping your whole country. With your next breath, it's enveloping the whole entire earth. And you are connected in a way that you can't explain. You don't need to know how. You just feel this beautiful connection through this divine blessing light. And as you feel that, you just breathe it in and you say to yourself, I am in the abundant flow of blessing, an abundance of joy, gratitude, luck, and flow are constantly unfolding in the world through me. I am blessed, and I am a blessing to everything that exists, to everything that's mine to show up as in the world, to everything that's mine to think and say and do. I am blessed and a blessing. And just know that you've created this blanket, this network, this incredible space of this light that you can dial back into at any moment. At any moment, you could just close your eyes and take a breath and call in that light, feel it envelop you, feel it radiate out, and just instantly be right back here connected. And you can affirm an abundance of joy, luck, and flow in alignment with my highest good is constantly unfolding in my life. Breathe it in. Relax into it. Exhale. And know that this or something better still exists for you. And so it is. Wake up. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers, shake, get awake again. All right. We're so glad that you guys are with us. So one of the things we want to do is get some responses from you quickly. Oh, we only have 2 minutes left. We probably don't have a minute time for responses. So you can put in the chat, what did that feel like, right? And Brooke and I want you to know that we are holding the perfect thought of your year filled with amazing experiences of flow on the way to your vision and on the way to who you've come here to be, who you are becoming and being in the process, and that being in the process is filling your heart with joy and wonder. So that's how we're holding the perfect thought for all of you. We're so, so grateful that you showed up here. So I'm Lynn Schuster Williams. These are things I have going on in my world. If you want to take a screenshot of that, you've got my email right there. And I'm happy to hear from you about any of those things. And here's Brooke. Brooke's a freedom facilitator. She does one-on-one coaching. And there's her email if you want to get in touch with her, if you want to take a screenshot of that. Brooke, there's lots of stuff going on in the chat saying it's been amazing, giving good feedback. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for investing part of your Saturday, right, with us.
This was an experience of what I call co-creation. You might just call community, or whatever word fits for you. And it was what it was because each and every single one of you all were here giving your energy and your input.
Yes, yes, yes. So feel free to unmute. We're right at the 1 minute mark. So feel free, anybody who wants to unmute and say goodbye or hello or whatever.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for everyone who offered their thoughts, their wisdom, and just thank you for such a delightful way to go forward this year.
Awesome. You're welcome, Melinda.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Many, many
Awesome.
blessings.
Thank you, ladies.
Take care.
Many, many
Thanks,
blessings.
Lynn. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke and Lynn.